Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Thank you for joining us today. Happy to do this AMA with a small discussion on SPACs, because that has been the most popular question which has been asked to us in the recent past. Let's by the time you put in the questions, for which you need answers, let me just take you through a brief discussion about SPACs. A lot of people who are investing in the US markets are very interested in whether or not SPACs are Sharia compliant or not. SPACs have been around for quite some time. Essentially, the full form of SPAC is special purpose acquisition companies or corporates, whichever way you look at it. They have been there for quite some time. We've been doing compliances of SPACs for ages together. We haven't had any questions coming to us at that point in time as to why are SPACs any different from an IPO, or the structure is any different from a regular company. Yes, I agree, there are differences between a running business which goes into an IPO and gets listed and trading happens on those stocks. SPACs are slightly different, but structurally, they are no different than an IPOing stock. Structurally. So there should be no difference in the way an IPO is traded to what a SPAC is traded as. The criticism over here, or the concern over here, or the caution over here, or the grave amount of hullabaloo, if I say, has been caused because SPACs, at the time they go for listing, do not have or do not seem to have a business attached to it. Now, what people conventionally mean by business is a business activity. That is, let's say, if it's a trading activity, a mining activity, a software production activity, whatever activity it may be, production of tires, manufacturing of vehicles, pharmaceuticals, computers, metals, whatever. What people traditionally mean is, in terms of business, would mean these definitions. But isn't scouting for a business also a business? That's a question that we need to think of when we're trying to analyze a SPAC. Essentially, just to give you a brief for all those people who are not very well versed with what SPAC is, and I don't want to take a lot of time harping about SPAC because I think it's a non-issue. I'll probably go on for another 5 minutes on SPAC, and inshallah then come back and start taking the questions. Alhamdulillah, a lot of people have come in and put some questions, and we will start answering them. I would urge people to put in their questions quickly, because this session is exclusively dedicated to answering your questions. And just to fill up the time, in the beginning, we are discussing a little bit about SPACs. So SPAC is a special purpose acquisition company. What typically happens is, at the time of listing, it is being promoted by a reputed promoter. Now, this promoter is very well known in terms of his business acumen, or in terms of identifying companies which can probably grow very fast. So they're akin to probably venture capitalists, right? At the time, so the US regulator allows listing of companies and raising of capital by such promoters, who will then go ahead within a typical time of about 2 years, go ahead and merge this pre-listed company with a private company, wherein the private company becomes the core of the listed company, and the management of the listed company gets taken over by this acquired or merged entity, and it goes on as a listed entity. Traditionally, what would happen is this unlisted entity would go in for an IPO and then access the capital markets. This is slightly different. So a shell company which has no business conventionally, would get listed, raise money, acquire this business or merge this business. This would go down and only this will remain. That is the essential idea of the SPAC. A lot of people have criticism that pre-merger SPAC should not be traded, or buying a SPAC in the pre-merger state may not be Sharia compliant, or buying a SPAC in the pre-merger state above the par value. Par value essentially is the value at which a company issues the IPO. Let's say, for example, in the US market is $10. Anything that you buy above $10 in the pre-merger state of the SPAC is considered non-permissible. The key reason that people say that SPAC is non-compliant is that it seems to be akin to a pot of gold. As Sharia Standard 21 of AOFI states that it is impermissible to trade. Let me just probably bring it up right away rather than you can see. This is the standard that people talk about. It says it is not permissible to undertake trading in shares. It is not permissible to undertake trading in the shares of a corporation when the assets of the corporation are cash exclusively, whether this is during the period of subscription or after that, prior to the commencement of the business of the company or at the time of liquidation, except at their nominal value and with the condition of delivery and possession. This is what a lot of people miss out on. Prior to the commencement of the business of the company. Are we taking this definition to be the merger state, or are we taking this commencement of business to be at the time when the company gets listed straight away? This has been discussed in detail in the Islamicly Sharia board, which took place just a couple of months back. The Sharia board was absolutely clear at that point in time that SPACs are permissible to be traded. There is no difference between an IPO and a SPAC. That's point number one. Point number two, SPACs are not similar to a company having 100% cash, because of the primary reason the legal structure of the SPAC is designed in such a way that the money that the SPAC raises in the pre-merger state is locked up in trust accounts, wherein the regulator clearly tells that you can raise that money but cannot use that money as per your whims and fancies. You will have to use that money for acquiring a business target. Hence, that money is completely locked up and it's restricted cash. It is not freely available cash. The statute or the Sharia standard refers to unrestricted cash being part of the company, and the company's stock value just increases basis that. In real life, it doesn't happen because people account for cost of funds and what it's going to earn, the rate of interest and stuff like that in the real market. The Sharia standard refers to a company having $100 as cash, a market value of $100. This $100 in cash is exclusively freely available to the management of the company to do whatever they want, and they choose to not do anything, and the price of the stock just goes up. That means you are valuing pure cash above the par value, and this is not permissible. A company will fail the cash compliance ratio if it had unrestricted cash in excess of 33% of its market capitalization. That standard already applies. But in the analysis of SPACs, we will not include the restricted cash, because it's earmarked. It is moved out of the common operations. It is not idle cash. It is specifically earmarked for an acquisition. The company may trade at a premium because of the goodwill of the founders, because of the past record of the founders, and at the end of it as well. If the founders or the sponsors are not able to find a target within the stipulated 2 years, then all of that money as is returned to the investors, the shareholders. Now, in terms of the structure, everybody gets hold of common stock. That means investing in a common stock with Sharia Compliant. Even in terms of liquidation, right? At the end of 2 years or the 3 years mandate, all the stockholders would need to vote. So there is this democratic process and an equalization process using which the shareholders vote that they would want to continue to be in the SPAC, extend the time, or liquidate it and get their monies back. Simple as that. Hence, there is no need of creating this kind of an issue around SPACs just because it is hot now. And apart from the Sharia compliance of it, so in terms of what we're saying SPACs are Sharia compliant if it has a stated purpose of acquiring a business in an area which is Sharia compliant, or else if it is even silent about it, it's Sharia compliant. If it will be non-compliant if it says specifically that we are going to acquire companies, let's say in cannabis, in financial services, in entertainment, in casinos or gambling or alcohol-based industries, it will still be classified as non-compliant. That's the basis. Apart from that, all the accounting ratios, the debt ratio, the cash ratio, and the receivables ratio will be applicable. In addition, the purification will also be applicable. Almost in all cases, in the pre-merger state, the purification is going to be 100%. But as we all know, there will be no dividends which will be paid out of the company. Purification is applicable only on the dividends of the company. We've clarified that many times, and we clearly state that in the app as well and in all the literature that we have published. So I hope this clarifies the air a little bit. Inshallah, we are coming up with a more detailed step-by-step argument-based article that we will publish on SPACs, and you will be able to access that and have a reference on that. In addition to this, just a word of caution: Sharia compliance by screening providers like Islamicly can look at the compliances at the criteria level. We cannot go ahead and say that this is a good practice or a bad practice. The Sharia scholars also encourage that investors utilize their own discretion in terms of going ahead when investing in Sharia compliant companies. In my personal opinion, I would say the same thing. It's a very risky proposition. Invest in it, not because it is classified as Sharia compliant, but do analyze or put in your discretion as well. That is this, or is the founders of the company genuine? Are the sponsors of the company genuine? Do they have a past track record of doing some kind of decent amount of investments? Look at all of these things. Just don't blindly put your monies behind SPACs if it is just because you're getting in early. That is what we wanted to convey. Very, very simple. We don't see any issue in terms of a SPAC. It goes through the same criteria which is designed by the Sharia scholars. There is no need to have a special criteria for this. There is no need to treat it specially in the pre-merger state and the post-merger state. It'll be the same. I mean, if people say that it's mostly cash, what does a brownfield project in an IPO look like? Let's say you IPO a power project. It will take 5-10 years to build that power project, right? In that meanwhile, or at least initially before the commencement of construction or commencement of the use of cash, 99% or probably more than that percent of the IPO proceeds are in cash. But those companies are classified as compliant. Nobody raised a hue and cry about that. Why are we trying to do something differently for SPACs? It's the same. There's no difference. Yes, if you're holding a preference share of a SPAC, it will be non-compliant, similar to what you will hold if you hold a preference share for any normal other company. If you hold a warrant of a SPAC without holding the mother share, that is definitely non-compliant because you're trading a right without having the asset in your hand at a premium. So those will definitely have the same compliance status as a non-SPAC as well. So there's nothing different over here. I hope that makes it clear. We're open to questions. We're open to suggestions as well. We are open to ideas which we might not have looked into. Hence this AMA as well. So before taking a lot of time, let's start looking at the questions. And there seems to be a massive enough people population around here of people who have come in and showed up for this webinar. Alhamdulillah, and we'll try and answer the questions to the best of our abilities. Muhammad is asking a question. Assalamu alaikum. How do we ask question regarding a specific stock we have doubt of its Sharia compliance? I have mentioned it in the forum, but it's been 4 months. It's on the forum. It's regarding a stock. Brother, if you have to ask a question which is related to a specific stock, the easiest and the fastest way and the most credible way of asking a question is you go under the stock. There is a stock discussion tab and you write your answer over there. Write your question over there, sorry. It will directly be given out to our research team. Our research team will look into it, and we usually respond to 99% of all such questions within 1 day, Monday to Friday. And questions which come to us at the end of Friday will be answered, inshallah, on Monday. That's how it is. I mean, just to give you an example, let's say this is Microsoft. You go into it, you see the detailed view of it, and you go down. Once you go down, under the price stuff, you have the last part. I'm not sure if it is clear, but it's the last part. Just click on it and you can put in your question. So what happens in this way is your question directly lands up on the researcher's desk. He would review it within 24 hours and get back to you. In addition, whenever the response has been published, you will get a notification as well, so that you now know that your question has been answered. So we are getting hundreds of questions on a daily basis nowadays, alhamdulillah, because the community is massive now. We get hundreds of 100+ questions on the stock discussion page, and we are expanding our team as well in terms of answering those questions. Apart from that, I would definitely like to apologize that if you've put it on the forum and it has not been answered, I will specifically look into it that it is answered as well. I've made a note of the stock that you're referring to, and we will answer that separately as well. So to all of you, if you have an issue or if you think that you need us to review the compliance of a particular stock, you can put up your query under the stock discussion tab, which is available under the detailed stock page. Someone is asking, does options trading is Sharia compliant? The short answer is definitely no. Conventional options and futures as well as swaps are considered Sharia non-compliant, principally because you do not own the underlying asset. One more thing I would like to say over here is, even if the options or the futures contract is built on a Sharia compliant stock, even then that futures or options contract is considered non-permissible. It is not Sharia compliant to trade those futures and options, even though if they may be built on the Sharia compliant stock. It's very clear. I would also like to draw your attention to AOF standard, which has clearly mentioned this thing. I'll just bring it down. It's here. It gives you a full detail as to why it is impermissible to trade in a futures contract. Under this, it talks about options as well. You can Google this and you can get this very, very easily on the internet as well. AOF standard 21, which gives you a detailed explanation as to why options and futures are not permissible, as well as for options. Very, very clear explanation and very nicely explained as well. Moving on. Someone is asking me a question. Please do something to promote Islamicly. Alhamdulillah, the word of mouth and a few marketing activities that we are trying to do in itself is taking the app to new heights. Inshallah, very soon we will also be touching a milestone of 100,000 users. Very soon, on a daily basis, we are getting thousands of downloads. Alhamdulillah, and the app is self-promoting itself because we believe that as long as we do good work in terms of credibility, in terms of giving good customer support, and in terms of doing solid research and coming back to you with Sharia compliance of stocks, the app will promote itself, inshallah. And we look forward to all of you to take this to newer heights. Couple of people from Moscow, Germany, alhamdulillah, from all over the world. Okay, another brother saying, Assalamu alaikum. I have a question regarding the stock screening, in particular 2 stocks. Please mention 2 stocks. These stocks have no revenue at all, but have substantial interest income. Should this not fail the business activity as more than 5%? Very good question. We've answered this question previously as well. But very, very quickly, I will answer this question as well as to why this would happen. Let me just pull up that stock as well, just to see what seems to be the issue. Essentially, companies which are involved in a business activity which is per se Sharia compliant, but may not be deriving revenue out of it as yet. One of the things that we have discussed on the same lines very, very clearly in the past has been a company called Moderna. We have written a very detailed review about that as well on the app as well as on our blog, which tells you very clearly why a company which does not have any revenue but deals in a Sharia compliant area is, if it passes the accounting ratios, will be considered Sharia compliant, although its total income would comprise massively of interest income. So in these scenarios, even though the company looks like Sharia compliant, it may have a purification in excess of probably 100%. And I think that is exactly the case with this company as well. Precisely, that's the case. I mean, the company that the brother is referring to is called Global Battery Metals Limited. This company, as of now, does not generate revenue from its business activity because it is in terms of negotiating its contracts or in terms of building the mines or whatever that be. As of now, the revenues are zero, but the business activity is Sharia compliant. But in the interim, all the monies that they raised for that compliant business activity has been parked into bank accounts or short-term investments or liquid investments. They will be moved out of that into productive usage of that cash into the business activity later on as things materialize for that company. In the meanwhile, all the revenues of the company are coming in from the interest or non-permissible incomes accrued from this cash deposits. Hence, the dividend purification ratio looks to be 100%, but the company is considered as Sharia compliant because it gets less than 5% revenue. It gets less than 5% of operating non-permissible incomes, which is essentially zero. I would urge you to look at our blog, which is called The Curious Case of Sharia Compliance of Biotechnology Companies. And it's the stock that we've discussed is Moderna. In Moderna, the case at that point in time, which is about 6 months, probably a year ago, was that Moderna was involved in research, biotechnology research, which is a Sharia compliant activity. They did not have a marketable product at that point in time, but they did raise money for doing research through an IPO. They did not have any product which was there in the market. Hence, revenue from operating activities, which is selling of biotechnology based products or pharmaceuticals, was zero. but all the IPO proceeds were kept in cash. That cash was generating interest, and more than 60-70% of the total revenue of the company was coming in from interest income. But as the Sharia board clarifies and has clarified on many occasions that interest income or non-permissible incomes to be accounted for the 5% threshold of the business activity has to be operating in nature. What does operating mean? Operating means something wherein the management is actively involved or things for which the company has been formed. Non-operating incomes are those incomes which accrue to the company due to passive activities or forced activities or something which they cannot avoid. So the view that the Sharia scholars have taken is, since the financial world or the financial setup of the world is so, or the banking activity of the world is so, that if you have idle cash, you will have to park it in interest-bearing securities. Hence, you will get, a company is prone to getting certain interest income. If it is interest income which is non-operating, which is the case in companies like Moderna and even the stocks that you referred to, REZZF and ABEPF, both these companies have the same behavior. It will be considered compliant. So any gain that you make from trading will be considered compliant. But if that company pays you a dividend, you will have to purify 100% of that dividend. Simple as that. Okay, Muhammad Bilal Chaudhry says, I noticed on desktop version there was an update done to website. After that, search is very slow and takes time to load all widgets. Before, search for tickers was faster. Please have support team to fix that. We will definitely look into it. We definitely have a performance parameter as well as to whether we have improvised on the speed and efficiency. But if that is the feedback, we will have it run again, and inshallah we will look into it definitely. But to our understanding, I don't think it takes a long time. If it was a specific issue for your thing, please get in touch with the customer support team as well, and we will raise a ticket with our technology team. But generally, thank you for the feedback. We'll definitely look into it. Essentially, you were saying that the widgets take time to load now. We'll have a look at that. Someone is asking, Al Tijani is asking, what is the standard or basis for the thresholds that you put? Very good question. The thresholds are for business, for a company to pass this business sector screening, it's 5% of operating income should come, less than 5% of his operating income could be from non-permissible activities. So a company should have more than 95% or 95% at least of permissible incomes to pass the business sector screening of the company. The second level is the financial ratio parts of the company, wherein the company's debt, interest-bearing debt to its market capitalization, which is here we take 3-year average market capitalization. So interest-bearing debt to 3-year average market capitalization should be less than 33%. Similarly, for liquid and near liquid cash, whether they're interest-bearing or not, yes, that's very important to hear. Whether the cash is interest-bearing or not, it should not be more than 33% of the 3-year average market capitalization of the company. And our Sharia board also has this additional filter which tells you that the receivables of the company should not exceed 49% of the value of the company, which is the market capitalization of the company. All of these thresholds have been built by Sharia scholars across the world, including the Sharia scholars at AOFI, which is probably one of the biggest congregation of Sharia scholars. The Sharia scholars at leading index providers, let's say S&P, Dow Jones, FTSE, MSCI. The Sharia scholars at leading Islamic banks, let's say Dubai Islamic Bank, Al Baraka Bank, Al Salam Bank, or any other Abu Dhabi Islamic Bank. All of these Sharia scholars on those Sharia boards have said that the criteria is almost the same. So there are detailed explanations which have been given by these Sharia scholars, and even in our blogs and in our forums, we have answered those questions as well. That why is only 5% tolerated? Why not 4%? Why not 20%? Why is 33% as a ratio? All of those questions is what we have answered. It is a separate discussion altogether. please do have a look at our webinar, which explains to you in detail as to why and what are the criteria used, wherein we have gone ahead and explained to whatever extent we could, basis the things that we've heard in our Sharia committees, as to why these thresholds have been put in and why they have been restricted to this value itself. Joe Ishaq said, Assalamu alaikum. Hi, Sheikh. Sorry to say, I am not a Sheikh. I'm just a practitioner of Islamic equity research. I wouldn't even say Islamic finance. I'm just specializing in this area. Anyway, I want to know what is the difference between Islamicly compared to other Sharia compliant stock apps, and is McDonald's stock considered Sharia compliant? The difference is in terms of criteria, we have a different criteria, whereas a lot of other people also try and follow AOP. Our Sharia criteria is actively managed. Islamicly's Sharia criteria is actively managed through the Sharia board of Islamicly, which comprises of very, very eminent scholars having massive amount of experience in the Sharia equity or Sharia asset management field. Just to give you perspective, Dr. Muhammad Al-Ghari, who is the chairman of the Islamicly Sharia board, is also part of the board of trustees of AOP. He's part of the standards drafting committee at AOP. He's also in the translation committee of the standards of AOP. He's also part of the Islamic Fiqh Academy Jeddah, which is a very, very prominent congregation of Sharia scholars of great prominence in the world. And he is as well having probably 30, 40 years of experience by virtue of he being being a member of Sharia Scholars Board or being the chairman of the Sharia Scholars Board at various Islamic asset management companies. Probably by far one of the most experienced person from a Sharia scholarly perspective in this space of equity investments and in the space of screening for equities. Alhamdulillah, we are directly guided by our Sharia board, which has this massive amount of experience. So that is one of the most distinguishable factors between Islamicly and everybody else. We have, the other thing is, we've been doing this for about 20 years. Our data goes into the leading index providers of the world. Our data goes into the leading asset managers of the world, having probably AUMs of hundreds of millions of dollars in Islamic assets. That's the power of Islamicly research. The third thing that distinguishes Islamicly and the others is Islamicly is a combination of definitely an algo-based mechanism, but none of the compliances are assigned just by algorithm. It has to go through a manual process of researcher-led reviews. And that's the reason we have the biggest team in this space. Alhamdulillah, we are now touching 30 people dedicated to bringing up this app. We are working on a lot more things than what a lot of people might think that will come up in the future. The main focus is definitely the quality of research rather than probably the features of the app. Inshallah, we'll make progress on that as well. But what our strong point is, if we classify a company as compliant, we have a solid reason behind it. I'm not going into the specifics of how a stock is classified as compliant, because we have talked a lot already about that. But anything which goes into our stock, into our app, and we give definite compliances, whether it's compliant or not compliant. We don't leave you in the balance, because we are reasonably sure, depending upon our experience and our knowledge basis, the time spent with the Sharia scholars and continuously time being spent with the Sharia scholars, that a stock is compliant or not. Now, to second part of your question, wherein you're asking whether McDonald's is Sharia compliant. On the face of it, it may look non-compliant. This has been specifically discussed with the Sharia board, and at that point in time, the Sharia board said that if you have any proof that the revenue from non-compliant activities, which is essentially pork and alcohol in the food services business, is less than 5%, The McDonald's does not disclose this kind of information, but Alhamdulillah, through our perseverance, we have got in touch with the investor relations team of McDonald's, and they clearly denied giving that information. But to help us out, they did mention that the procurement or the cost of goods which is being bought by McDonald's for sales at their restaurants, the cost for pork is definitely less than 5%. That's what they have confirmed. They cannot confirm it by revenue, but they have confirmed it by expense, that the cost of procurement of pork is less than 5% of the total cost of procurement for all the goods that they use in terms of preparing their dishes or the food items. Using that, we went back to the Sharia board and said that this is the information that we have. Basis that, the Sharia board was fine with classifying this as compliant, with the condition that it has to be reviewed every time when it comes out with its annuals. And we have been doing that as part of our regular process for all the stocks that we make compliant. Hence, McDonald's has been classified as compliant. We will continuously monitor this. If there's any change in this kind of understanding, we will be able to reclassify it as well. So your stocks are monitored with precise compliance information to the extent they're available. In addition to what the brother had previously asked, that RGR is a weapons company and it is classified as Sharia compliant on our portal. Yes, the Sharia board of Islamicly does not consider weapons manufacturing companies to be Sharia non-compliant. In other words, manufacturing weapons is considered a Sharia permissible activity. The reason behind this, the Sharia scholars quote, is weapons are Sharia neutral. That means they are per se not opposed to Sharia. The user of these weapons can make a Sharia compliant decision of protecting someone or using it in a just manner, or he may use it as an oppression on specifically our community or humanity at large. So the manufacturer of the weapons is considered a Sharia compliant business activity. The manufacturing of weapons is considered as a Sharia compliant business activity. The buyers and the ultimate usage will make it non-compliant, because it is pretty clear. I mean, are we saying that in the prophetic times, none of the prophets used weapons in defending themselves or propagating the religion? Simple argument is out there. Yes, we do understand, the Sharia scholars do understand, and they've acknowledged the fact that the majority, there may be a possibility that a good majority of weapons may be used against humanity, may be used for atrocities, may be used against Muslims. But is it under the control of the manufacturer? No, it's not. If we restrict Muslims from investments in weapon manufacturing companies, you are inherently making yourself more vulnerable to probably the evils of society. Every country has a right to have its own defenses, and hence investment in weapon manufacturing companies is considered a Sharia compliant activity. At the same time, the Sharia Scholars Board do recommend that investors exercise their own caution, exercise their own additional filters, exercise their own knowledge that if a particular weapons manufacturer is found to be involved in an unethical practice, or has been condemned by a credible board, or has been condemned by probably an international organization, stay away from it. But from a criteria perspective, we are bound to keep them as Sharia compliant, because weapons as such are not averse to from a Sharia perspective. That's the reasoning. Okay, Brother Rahim is asking that there is a stock which is non-compliant since Jan 2021. It says in one place to get rid of it, that was on some date, and in another place where there is the graph. It may be a technical issue. It usually isn't, but thank you for pointing that out. I am making a note of that stock as well. I believe this was discussed by our research team as well, and it was a technical issue in terms of posting the response that it is non-compliant, whereas the stock was compliant. If that is the same thing, the stand remains the same, but we will have it re-reviewed. I have got that stock down again. So RGR is done, but the stock that you are referring to, I will have it looked again and respond to you by Monday itself. Let's move on. Qases says, I have a question on purification process on stocks that we can hold. According to Zoya app users, it's not enough to only purify dividends, but also revenue income per stock one holds. Islamicly seems to only stick to dividend purification, but both apps are based on AOP standards. How come? Correction, Islamicly app is not based on AOP standards. At the same time, our standard that we follow, the screening standard, is convergent with AOP. It's not divergent. It's not very different from AOP. Secondly, before I get into answering your question, please remember, and that has been the view of the Sharia scholars themselves who are part of the AOP Sharia Standards Board, is AOP is providing a guideline. AOP is not providing a criteria. A criteria has to be more detailed at least. Okay, I mean, AOP, let me just pull that up as well for you right away. I'll just take probably a minute on that issue. As you can see, this is the slide that I have made of Islamically Sharia criteria versus AOP. I mean, yes, AOP also mentions that alcohol should be considered non-permissible. Yes, swine should be considered non-permissible. Financial services, AOP says interest earning businesses, whereas our Sharia board says conventional financial services. It's almost the same. On the other hand, don't we all know that gambling is a Sharia non-compliant activity? AOP doesn't talk about it, right? I'm not saying AOP permits it, but AOP says that such businesses which are non-compliant in nature, such as alcohol, swine, and interest earning businesses. But it doesn't go into the specifics. So tobacco, not mentioned in AOP. Adult entertainment and pornography, not specified in AOP. Whether gold and silver trading on a hedged basis is Sharia compliant or not specified in AOP. Yes, AOP specifies that 5% of operating income, 5% of income of non-permissible income is a threshold, whereas our Sharia board specifies clearly that it should be 5% of operating income and not the total income. AOP is silent on it, but the scholars who have been part or who are part of the AOP Sharia Scholars Board have clearly told us that the intention of AOP has also been that non-permissible incomes which are non-operating in nature will not be considered for the 5% sector threshold criteria. It will only be non-permissible incomes which are operating in nature, wherein the management is actively involved, will be considered in assessing the sector compliances. But AOP is silent about giving a clarification on that. Coming to the financial ratios part. Financial ratios part, we use market cap. AOP also uses market cap. It is defined by our Sharia board using various methods and using various amount of data that the 36 months average market capitalization is a stable way of assessing the compliance of companies. Whereas AOP has not specified that at all. Is it the daily market cap? Is it the monthly market cap? Is it the market cap on the day the financials are released? Again, it's quarterly or annual. None of it is specified. Debt, AOP specifies 33%. Sorry, we specify 33%, whereas AOP says 30%. Cash is 33% and AOP is 30%. So it's almost convergent on that side. Accounts receivables ratio, we still maintain the ratio of 49%, whereas AOP at some point in time was saying 70%, and now they've removed it. But they don't specifically mention that removal in standard 21 as of now. Now, AOP doesn't give further guidelines as to whether you should update the data on a monthly basis, daily basis, quarterly, weekly, annuals. None of the guidelines are available. So AOP at best can be taken as a guideline and not a criteria. In addition to Islamicly having a proper criteria, Islamicly also have rules. When I say rules, these rules have been decided by the Sharia board itself, which do not form a part of the criteria, but there are directions or specific instructions as to how things have to be done. Let's say, for example, interest-bearing debt. Interest-bearing debt should be considered for the market for the debt to market capitalization ratio, for the leverage compliance ratio, as we call it, or debt compliance ratio, as people colloquially call it. Over here, only interest-bearing debts have to be considered. So let's say, for example, if a company has raised an Islamic debt, that should not be part of the debt number that we have to take for ratio calculation. Now, do we do the same thing for cash? No. We will not take interest-bearing cash over its market capitalization. No. It has to be the total cash, whether interest-bearing or non-interest-bearing. When I say cash, it's cash and liquid assets, or near liquid assets, or as the companies classify it as current assets. Those should not be more than 33% to its average market capitalization. The reason over here is that the company should not derive more than 33% of its value just by having idle cash. Because if it exceeds that, then the rules of SARF, okay, which is currencies against currencies, or dealing in currencies, or an entity which is akin to a currency, or will be applied. Hence, if the rules of stock trading have to be applied, total ideal cash, I am using the wrong word, idle cash, not ideal, idle cash to its market capitalization should be less than 33%. So these are the specifics. I mean, there are so many things. I mean, is our e-cigarette Sharia compliant? Are non-nicotine, non-tobacco based products Sharia compliant? Okay. How about cannabis industry? We just published an article yesterday about the Sharia compliance of cannabis, whether all cannabis companies are Sharia compliant or not, or what are the principles to ascertain whether they are compliant or not. Where are we getting all this information? We're getting it from the Sharia scholars. So a screening provider needs to have an active, experienced Sharia scholars board. And just by saying that we are following the EOP standards, we personally, I'm not telling from a Sharia board perspective, we as researchers who have been involved in 10 plus years doing this kind of work exclusively, are not convinced as to how can we just take the EOP standard and base a criteria and give classification on that. It's going to be, I mean, it gives me shivers actually from a research perspective. So nonetheless, coming on to your, I'm going slightly slow. I'll probably move faster now because there's so many questions to be covered. The question that was specifically asked at that point in time was, why do we have to purify only the dividends and not the capital gains? This has been answered by the Sharia board very, very categorically and specifically, that after applying the entire criteria, if a stock is classified as Sharia compliant, trading in it will give you halal income, which is permissible income. You do not need to purify any amount from the capital gains that you make, because the gain that you have made is from a compliant product or a compliant underlying asset. Plus the gains that you made because there was a price movement. You bought low and you sold higher. This movement of price is not in any major manner affected by the non-permissible income, which is less than 5% out here. It is not affected majorly. I'm not saying it is not affected at all, but it's not majorly affected by it. Now, once you get dividends from that company, what it means is the company has got non-permissible incomes on its balance sheet, in its P&L account. Out of that P&L, they have given you something in cash. That means now you have got a percentage of the income that you got, which has tainted income. That has to be purified. As simple as that. Dividends needs to be purified at the purification ratio that only Islamicly app provides. None of the other apps provide. Primary reason for it is because we are researcher-led and not robot-led. Secondly, on capital gains, you do not have to purify because you made a capital gain on an asset which is classified as Sharia compliant in the first place. Simple as that. Someone is asking me, is day trading Sharia compliant? Absolutely yes, day trading is Sharia compliant. Please read the blog that we have given on our app, as well as lots of answers that we have given on the forum that why intraday trading is Sharia compliant. Yes, it is subject to rules. The first rule is definitely it has to be in Sharia compliant stocks. Secondly, you have to buy first and sell later. Thirdly, it should not be in a contract which does not permit delivery. When I say so, if you have a broker who says that you can go ahead and place an order for intraday trading, and you are forcefully, or it is by without doing any action of yours, it is sold off or squared off automatically by the broker without you having the option of taking delivery of it, that is considered non-permissible because there was no intention at all to take delivery of that stock. But if, as I said, if it's a Sharia compliant stock, you buy first and you sell later, and the contract allows you to take delivery if you wished, then intraday trading is Sharia compliant. There is no minimum amount of time that you have to hold that stock. The confusion over here is between ownership and possession, right? The delivery that we talk about is possession, right? Without possession, you can still be the owner in many cases, especially with the electronic trading systems across all exchanges nowadays in the world. You can be the owner of that stock by having all the risks and reward associated with that stock transfer onto you, and then you can sell it. But once the risk and reward of the stock transfers onto you, you may still take some time, T+1 or end of day or T+2 to get the physical possession. So ownership is separate, possession is separate. To allow you to sell the stock, ownership is essential, possession is not mandatory. Very clear. Okay, Zara has again asked a question regarding coming back to SPACs. There is a lot of discussion about trading pre-merger of SPACs. Is it permissible to buy and sell the SPAC when no target company has been confirmed? Also, there is some confusion if they really are illiquid, because people say you cannot count staff as an asset. As I said initially, I'll go through this quickly. The answer is yes, you can buy SPACs. Yes, you can buy a SPAC even in the pre-merger state. You can trade it as well. That means you can buy and sell in the pre-merger state. The company is not akin to trading in currencies, or the company is not akin to being equivalent to just cash. As I said earlier as well, SPACs have a restricted cash account. That cash, what they have maintained in their account, have a time frame which is governed by the shareholders. Again, it is in trust. That means it is earmarked. Hence, it is not akin to free cash. The cash ratio also applies on free cash, and it does not apply on the restricted cash because it is earmarked for a specific purpose. Yes, if you receive dividends, which is very unlikely from SPACs, it will be comprising mostly of interest, and it has to be purified completely. So SPACs do have a distinct identity apart from just being a pot of cash. It is very simple. It is primarily the goodwill of the founders or the sponsors, as they call it, basis which you are going to invest in that SPAC. Someone is asking, how can we know that the stock was Sharia compliant? Very simple. You come on the app, search for that stock, and you will get the compliance of it. Green means compliant, red means non-compliant. When you download the app for the first time, your home country, we give you 3 free stocks so that you can view as to how the complete details look like. Beyond that, you'll have to subscribe. We even give options of paying per stock as low as probably 50 cents for the US markets, and even lower for other markets. But cheapest deal that you can definitely get on the app is the annual subscription that you can take on the app, which is nowadays going at a massive discount as well. I think You just apply the coupon over there and you will get probably 30, 40, 50%. I don't know. Today, there's a 50% offer, I believe, as well. It just keeps changing depending on our marketing team's assessment. We've made it as simple as probably 10 Ps per day for probably the UK and the US markets. So it's like, it's hardly anything. It's just hardly anything. All of this massively credible, huge team behind it, compliance data given to you in your laps in a transparent manner, comes to you at a very, very cheap price. I don't think we can go beyond lower than this to bring exclusion in the community. We just want you to utilize that benefit. It's very easy. Someone is asking, how can we check if SPACs have more than just cash? By virtue of the SPAC itself, it has more than just cash. A lot of things are off balance sheet. I mean, one of the key things that people have invested in Churchill Capital is because it's part of this pre-established house, as I would say, or sponsor who has a track record of ensuring that the company merges with a decent unlisted company. That's the reason the prices are going up. So are you interested in just the cash in the company? No, you are interested in that company because it has potential to acquire an unlisted company which has a solid business, right? That is the consideration that you have when you acquire, when you're going to invest in that SPAC. By virtue of that itself, it means that the SPAC is anything but just cash. Simple as that. Yes, Abul says the issue I think with SPAC is that there is a lot of rumors and speculation. Islam says you should not trade on speculation. Therefore, how is it halal? Very good question. Very good question. And that's the reason I had put in that caution as well, that it all depends on the niyat of the person as well. But from a criteria perspective, how can we say that SPACs are not Sharia compliant? There are SPACs which are which as an instrument, it's a genuinely pro-market, pro-democratic democratic financial instrument. It has a good purpose in itself. It allows a faster route for unlisted companies to access the capital market. So just by the virtue of which it is being used or the speculation surrounding it, we can't make it non-compliant at the criteria level. I mean, our Sharia Scholars Board has to answer to a lot of financial institutions as well globally. And by virtue of its principle, if it's non-compliant, it's non-compliant. There's absolutely no problem in doing that. But in principle, it looks absolutely fine. There is it passes all the Sharia criteria as has been put together by the Sharia Scholars Board, not only our Sharia Scholars Board, globally all over. Yes, the fact of the matter is there's a lot of speculation going on, and trading just basis speculation is something which I wouldn't want to comment on, frankly, because a lot of people will then come back and say that, what is speculation? Speculation is nothing but informed decisions as to, or our assessment of how this company is going to perform. That's about it. So can't say much. So SPACs by nature are Sharia compliant. Yes, we acknowledge that there is a lot of speculation around it. We can't say anything about that. Brother Masood says a very, very shocking thing, and we're being transparent in terms of reading all of these things out. I saw some banking sector stocks which are compliant. So how they became Islamic as their business runs based on interest. I'm shocked to hear this. Brother Masood, I would definitely request you to put that up with our customer support, or even here if you can mention it on this webinar itself, which stocks you think are Sharia are banking stocks and are classified as Sharia compliant. The one reason that is available over here is they may be from Islamic banks, they may be Sharia compliant banks. There are many in the world, so that may be the compliance status. But if you're referring to probably Visa and MasterCard, they are not banking stocks in the first place. They are clearly Sharia compliant. We have written a detailed review on that on the website as well as on the app. in the article section as to why MasterCard and Visa are Sharia compliant. And that's our USP as well, that we have researcher-led and we look into the business activity and not let some bot or an algorithm do the screening. Brother Iskandar, Assalamu alaikum. How are you? You have the question that is it permitted from a Sharia compliance point of view to use Ether to gain money? If crypto money is considered as commodity, it seems to be licit, like a rent. If it's considered as money, it will be an interest. Very, very simple. The answer over here, as of now, there's a big debate still out there in the open, and the opinions have not settled on cryptos. A lot of Sharia scholars say it's compliant. A lot of Sharia scholars say it's non-compliant. Our Sharia committee has not given out a clear pronouncement on that as of now. But in terms of companies, in terms of stocks, like for example, the stock that you're asking for, are using or investing in cryptos and in the underlying asset or as a business. Now, the tools that they're using or the contracts that they're using are Sharia non-compliant. Basis that we have made these companies Sharia non-compliant, not because that we consider cryptos as non-compliant. We do not have any assessment on that as of now, but conventionally companies that invest or have assets or funds basis cryptos, the instruments that they use, right? For example, if you're investing in Apple, but you're investing in the call option of Apple, it's non-compliant, although Apple is considered compliant by our Sharia standards. So that's the same stand that we have taken for such companies. The contracts that they use are not in tandem with the Sharia principles. Hence, those companies are classified as non-compliant. Yes, brother is asking, how do you explain the difference between SPAC warrants and call options? Is there a difference? Functionally, it looks exactly like buying a call, and hence both of them are non-compliant. So SPAC warrants are non-compliant. Call options are definitely non-compliant. Brother Aqib is saying, when will you improve stability of the app? It can get super frustrating. This has been a constant feedback from a portion of users having a specific version of phones. We have it in-house. We have it acknowledged. Apart from that, we are constantly working on it. You will see a small update as well coming up in the next week as soon as it gets approved. There have been a small number of bugs that have been identified again, and we are constantly pushing an update every 2-3 weeks to figure things out. And inshallah, with the kind of support that you're giving us, with the kind of with the way the community is growing, we are looking at expanding our. We're committed to expanding our technology team as well. And inshallah, you will see a much cooler interface as well, inshallah. We are upgrading the technology also at the back end. We are putting more resources. So the breadth and the functionalities will also get increased. Especially on the iOS versions, you will see massive improvements in probably a couple of weeks itself, inshallah. Rinath is asking a question. Do you screen a company going for IPO on the basis of future capitalization after IPO? At the time of IPO, it gets listed, our capitalization theory is based on the issue price, not the issue price includes the premium. That's what I mean. Not at the par value or the face value of the stock. So the market capitalization that we use for assessing company's IPO status, whether compliant or not, is dependent on the issue price multiplied by the number of shares outstanding of the company, and that gives us a market capitalization. One more important feature that we have recently released is we are classifying IPOs separately, right? So if you go into the forum section, and on top, you have the third option on the right, which tells you about IPOs/stock reports. There, all the IPOs which are going to come up will get listed. If it is in a stage where we cannot assign compliances, it will say that Sharia status not assigned. Once the Sharia status is assigned, you will see the same stock tile under that report, and you can click on it. If you're a paid subscriber, you can view it. If it is from the same market that you have subscribed for, you can view it instantly. Else, you can pay for that IPO itself, or you can subscribe to that market. Once the stock gets listed, it will come and sit in the universe section as well and get removed from the IPO section. So please do keep checking the IPO section, which is separately listing all the IPOs coming up in the world, inshallah. If there is something which we have not covered, you can definitely reach to us using the request for screening function. That's the fastest way of requesting a screening. So as we had promised earlier that we will have a separate IPO section coming up, that has already come up, and we are constantly every day 15, 25, 10, whatever the number of IPOs, we're covering it on a daily basis. Someone says, I bought a SPAC around $13. Is my holding haram? If you bought a SPAC which is Sharia compliant as per Islamicly app, you should be fine, inshallah. Brother Rahim is saying, how can I change the graph axis of a stock versus time? Brother Rahim, we are giving basic functionalities about these things. We believe that all of these things in a very, very advanced stage will be available either on your broker app or on the stock market screeners that you're trying to use. Hence, we are not focusing on that side of things right now. Our principal focus right now is on ensuring that you get the best compliance information and more information that will help you in staying Sharia compliant on the stocks. All of these functionalities that are non-Sharia related can be better handled by your screening, by your broker app. That is what our stand. But inshallah, once we finish the roadmap that we have in terms of providing you such tools which give you more confidence to invest in Sharia compliant stocks, we will also try and work around these things as well. So I'm not saying that we will not do these things, but it's not in the immediate future. Brother Carl is asking, do you need to buy the stock at $10? This is again a SPAC related question. I read somewhere that if you get the stock for greater than $10 and no agreement is done in 2 years, you only get $10 back, but you place $14 a share. That's exactly the risk that you have. Yes, if the company does not go ahead, the SPAC does not go ahead and merge, and the shareholders opt for redemption at that point in time, then you will get back your par value only. Simple as that. That's the risks and reward attached to investing in SPACs. Akila is asking, is SPAC similar like versus of private placement, aka public placement, gathering cash to merge to acquire company? I would say yes. There should not be any difference between both of those things. Ahmed says, how frequently do you check the stock's compliance? Every earnings report? Yes, we check the compliance of stocks on a daily basis. So 5 days a week, which is Monday to Friday, we check all the 36,000 stocks that are available on our app on a daily basis. Now, what are the things that we check for? We check for changes in market capitalization. And if that change in market capitalization leads to change in compliance, if that happens, then we go ahead and again verify the compliance status of that company by looking at its earnings again before we allow it to turn compliant. So that is what happens on a daily basis. Secondly, whenever an earning report comes in, which comes in, the earliest is a quarter and annual comes in every 12 months. Whenever a quarter number comes in, that number also gets incorporated into our screening at max within a couple of days itself. High priority companies get screened and published probably within 1 day itself, because the data providers also give high priority to the large cap companies. So they get updated very, very quickly. Then basis priority, everything else gets updated. So yes, we account for all of those things and do the compliance checks at all of these places as well. We are probably the only app in the world right now which updates on a daily basis, and that's the reason we have this huge machinery which is used to run the app, and that's the reason we look forward to your support, which alhamdulillah we're getting. I'm not complaining at all, but we need to make this as a credible source, and inshallah we will do our best to be transparent and give you the tools that you require to comfortably rely on Islamicly for all your halal investment decisions in the equity space. Start with. Okay, brother Nazimuddin has a big question. He said there are lots of bugs on the app. And he says a lot of them have been fixed, but still a lot of bugs remain. Not sure when will we be able to use the app properly. Inshallah, as I said, we are releasing a new version, a new update. I wouldn't say a version, a new update in just a few days, not even weeks. If there are any specific issues, I'm sure you have reached out to our customer support as well. Please do reach out to our customer support again and let them know if there are any further issues. We are committed to giving you a technologically superior experience. Yes, we have not probably in some areas been able to reach there. And inshallah, as the community is growing, we are able to make more investments in this space as well. And we are expanding the breadth of our technology team as well. And you should get a satisfaction very, very soon. And if you have an issue with the subscription that you've paid, our customer support will definitely do something which will ensure that you do not pay for something which you have not used. Very, very simple as that. That's the Sharia principle as well. Someone is asking that they have a conventional mutual fund, looks like, which is non-Sharia investment. How do I purify that? Very, very simple. If you are invested in a mutual fund which is non-Sharia compliant, the entire return is non-Sharia. Simple as that. There is no way that you can purify it. There's a question on zakat on equities. I'm not an expert on that, so I will skip that question. But we are working on an article as well, which will give out the principles as to how you can do zakat calculation on your equity investments. So I'm going to just skip that question. Muhammad is saying, in terms of debt as a percentage of market cap in today's inflated market, a number of stocks that use high levels of debt have fallen into the Sharia compliance bracket due to inflated market cap. Is it appropriate to consider this stock as Sharia compliant at that point in time? What is inflated market cap? How can one person say that it's inflated? If it is inflated, then the short sellers are going to come in and try to deflate it and make money out of it. So market capitalization generally what the Sharia scholars also consider is the collective opinion or the collective real value of the company in the eyes of hundreds of thousands or probably millions of people. So if you're saying it's inflated, it may be because of technicals. I mean, if you see technology stocks, they trade at like much higher PE to probably real estate, right? So if they, let's say, for example, real estate is trading at 3x or 4x of its asset value or its earnings value, technology stocks, some of the technology stocks probably trade at like 20, 30, 40 times of the price earning ratio. So is it overvalued? Can't say that. This, once we decide that the parameter of valuing a company's market capitalization, it becomes a collective opinion of everybody else as how the market functions. So can't say much about that. Ismail says, question regarding day trading. When I buy a stock, I'm aware I need to wait T+2 before I sell it. When I sell the stock, can I immediately use the proceeds to buy other stocks, or do I have to wait another T+2? When you sell the stock, if your broker is giving you the cash immediately and he's allowing you to buy shares up to that value, why not? I don't see a concern in that. You sold it, you're entitled to that money, and with that money, you want to buy something else. What's the problem? Moving on. Jahid says, in Asian countries, it is very difficult to get a credit card and PayPal is not supported. So if you add Skrill, Neteller, Perfect Money, or for payment, it will be very helpful for us. Very good feedback. I mean, all of these require a lot of tech effort. Do get in touch with our customer support, and they can create individual links on these technologies that you're trying to speak about. And inshallah, we will be able to integrate them as well. Muhammad Farhan says, I don't know why everybody is complaining about the app interface. It works absolutely fine for me in the iOS version. I mean, the only thing we do with the app is to search for stocks and see if it is compliant or not, right? Not sure if you guys are using it for anything else more complicated. Great job, Islamicly team. Thank you, Muhammad Farhan. But yes, I mean, we're not going to sleep after looking at this, at what you said. We will definitely work harder. We as an Islamic organization want to create such products which are technologically superior. It should be at par with any of the apps that you use. Yes, we have had challenges in terms of our product initially, but as I said, we are definitely expanding the breadth of our technology team, and inshallah we will not leave any stone unturned in terms of satisfying that. We are not saying that just because our research is superior, just because we do so much in terms of research, even if the interface is crappy, please go ahead and use us. No, we are not taking that as an answer. We want our technology interface to be at par or even better, inshallah, sometime, to even conventional apps having millions of users. That's the intention over here. Someone says we're reaching the end of this session, and inshallah I will wrap this up probably in just about, I will not go beyond 1 hour 30 minutes. It's 1 hour 19 minutes, 11 12 minutes max. I'm going to wrap it up, so I'm going to take the questions quickly now, because I think we've covered most of the issues, and inshallah, but I will answer all the questions. So Ahmed says, I tried your platform and other similar ones that use the same AOFI guidelines. However, some of the stocks have contradictory Sharia compliant results. This is a bit confusing, not sure why that happens and how do we verify. I've answered this previously and in many occasions as well. Islamicly app uses its own Sharia criteria. This Sharia criteria has been devised by Sharia scholars having massive repute who are also part of the AOFI standards board. Our Sharia criteria is way more actively managed than any other Sharia criteria probably in the world. I say this because the kind of scholars that work with us are specialized in equity side of investments, or are also part of a lot of index providers whose job is to see whether which stock is Sharia compliant or not and put them in the index. They are also in the Sharia boards of AOFI. As in the standards board and in the translation committees as well. They are also part of the Sharia boards of a lot of Islamic asset managers, which have funds, which invest in equities and have problems, and they come and consult those same Sharia scholars. So we work with those Sharia scholars. And hence, not only is our criteria actively managed, we have hundreds of rules under those criteria which have been decided by the Sharia Scholars Board, following which we are able to give out precise compliance information to the extent possible and to the extent the information is available. Hence, you may definitely see differences between us and the others. One of the reasons for differences is, yes, we follow a different criteria, which is convergent with AOFI, which is similar to AOFI, but I would say it's an extension of AOFI. That's point number one. Point number two is we are a combination between algorithm and researcher-led execution. Point number three is we are directly guided by the Sharia board. Hence, we follow a knowledge-based approach wherein vanilla-looking things may have a different connotation from a Sharia perspective, and we get our direction directly from the Sharia boards. Simple as that. So things which may look non-compliant may be compliant, and things which may seemingly seem non-compliant may also be Sharia compliant, because we have asked that to the Sharia board. That's the reason we have differences in compliance between us and the others. But yes, at the same time, it may be a mistake that we have committed, and that's the reason we have opened up the stock discussion forum, wherein you can write that it seems that Islamicly may not have considered this particular information, and it seems your classification is wrong. Hence, you can write it in that stock discussion board. It directly gets to the analyst desk, and he will reply to you within 24 hours, inshallah. Simple as that. We don't want to say that we are doing the best job in the world. We are trying to be the best in the world, but we're open to questions as well. Abul says, why is there a restriction how many stocks I can request screening? It's just to manage our work. On a Monday morning, we get probably 500 to 600 stocks that people request for us to screen. Hence, we just restrict that you can screen these number of stocks per day and these number of stocks per month. Someone is asking, are Bitcoin and Dogcoin trading compliant? As I said initially, I will stick to equities over here. And inshallah, we will also give you a detailed write-up, not soon, but eventually, about the entire thing surrounding Bitcoin. This is what has been finally decided by a Sharia board. Someone said, is it true that Islamicly uses a 3-year average for market cap in their calculation? It's absolutely true. The secret. I've been just joking. Yes, my brother, Islamicly uses a 3-year average market capitalization. Principal reason is to give you a stable list of stocks. Secondly, it also eliminates speculation. So big rise in prices due to speculative activity or dip in prices due to short sellers are negated. A 3-year average market capitalization stabilizes the value of the company, and hence compliances basis the financial ratios do not change very frequently. Someone says you will have more customers by providing a free trial period for the app. We do provide a free trial of the app. As you download the app, you have 3 stocks in your market which are opened up. You can add, you can open that stock, get into it, purify, see all the functionality. Why would a person need a trial? You need a trial to see how the app works or what kind of use can the app give you. With these 3 stocks, you can use all the functionalities of the app except compliances. Hence, we are restricting compliance information only. Everything else is open. There's absolutely nothing which is hidden apart from compliance information. Ahmed says, please fix the subscription model. It's extremely confusing between the different markets and pricing. I suggest keeping a simple price per month for all markets will get you more users versus the current annual subscription, which are discounted every other day. I love to pay this amount per month. It's cheap enough that we won't notice it, and therefore it will continue for many years. Brother Ahmed, thank you for your suggestion. Our pricing is a result of the user feedback. As simple as that. So if you are an investor in many jurisdictions in the world, I think more than 60-70% of the jurisdictions in the world, you cannot invest out of your home country. Hence, a majority of our users are investing either in the US market, that is US, Canada, and UK, more specifically in the US, or else they're investing in their own country. If we provide an inflated price, which gives you access to all the stocks in the world at a standard flat price, that price will not be justified and it will again be very expensive. To keep the prices low, relevant, we have kept it as a market-based subscription. Apart from that, we also have to protect our data, the millions of dollars that frankly, the million amount of money that we have spent in terms of doing this data up and the recurring expenses that we incur to keep the research up for this, we have to protect it someplace. I mean, I think we have that right. Hence, we give a access market-wise only, and I think that is what we will continue. But if you want to have access to any stock in the world, you don't necessarily have to go ahead and add a subscription of that market. We give a pay per stock view now. So basis the feedback of the customers, let's say you subscribe to the US market, but you now find there is stock in the UK market which you think you need to invest in. Earlier, you had to subscribe either monthly, quarterly, or annually for the UK market. Now, your primary subscription can be the US market, for which you've probably taken an annual subscription because that's the cheapest option available. But in that UK market, you can just go ahead and probably pay 50 pence and get access to that market. Simple. I mean, we've made it, I think as of now, our pricing is I don't think we have heard any complaints anymore. This is the first time I'm hearing it after a long time that pricing is confusing. We give you the option of utilizing whichever markets you're actively trading in, and the markets you're not actively trading in, you don't need to pay us. Just pay 50 cents or probably in some markets it's like 40 cents also. Some markets it's like 30 cents also. Some markets is as low as for India, it's as low as probably 20 rupees, Indian rupees, to open up a stock and check the compliance of it. So it has all of these options have been given with the option by keeping your convenience in mind. Brother Ahmed is asking, can ETFs be considered Sharia compliant, and is it possible to purify the returns to profits made if an ETF is classified as Sharia compliant by a Sharia Scholars Board? Investment in that is permissible. If you invest in an ETF which does not have a Sharia certification, it is nearly impossible to purify that ETF for Sharia compliance. There are various issues. It does not work like a stock. ETF follows the index. Index rebalances. We do not know when at that rebalance time which stocks were invested in and which stocks were dropped. So the period of investment in a non-compliant stock or the investments in non-compliant stocks of that ETF is not clear. Hence, we cannot purify a conventional ETF. An ETF has to be classified as Sharia compliant for the returns to be considered as Sharia compliant. Not only the investments of the ETF are non-compliant. Conventional ETFs follow the same principle. They make money out of probably lending your stocks overnight. They make money by sweeping your funds, the ETF cash, into an interest-bearing account, and they get interest. How are you going to purify that? You have no information about it. There are so many trading strategies that an ETF manager would be involved in, which are Sharia non-compliant. Hence, definitely the answer to ETF investing is not that ETF will be classified as compliant and there is a purification. Straight, simple forward answer over here for ETFs is an ETF has to be classified as Sharia compliant for you to invest in it and make returns. If you invest in an ETF which is not classified or certified as Sharia compliant by a Sharia Scholars Board, the returns are impure, and there is no mechanism that we, being in this industry, have also not figured out as to how we can do the purification. You can't do the purification. It's nearly impossible. Fadi is asking, Assalamu alaikum, wa alaikum salam. How do you keep up with monitoring all these companies' financial activities, manual research or automated? How often is the compliance reevaluated? As I said, it's a combination between an algorithm and a researcher-led team. The process is every day we ask a data service provider through an API feed as to which are the companies which have changed their numbers, incorporate those numbers using an algorithm that we have. If using that numbers, anything changes compliance, those numbers are verified so that if we classify anything as Sharia compliant, those numbers has to be re-verified. So a researcher looks at the financials of those companies and ascertains that the classification of debt is correct, classification of cash is correct, classification of receivables is correct. Then it gets moved on to our researcher, who again looks at if the sector of the company is Sharia compliant by looking at the financials, website, news articles and stuff like that. And then he comes back and says that this is a Sharia compliant from a sector perspective. Both of these are combined and overall compliance is assigned. All of these are completed on a daily basis for 37,000 stocks. Whenever, and this happens Monday to Friday, and that's the reason we have a 30-member team, alhamdulillah, including the technology team. And we will, inshallah, expand and keep making more investments in this. It is a tedious job, but we have mastered it because we've been doing this for past 20 years, alhamdulillah. Yes, this event is recorded. You can always access this on our YouTube channel. Okay, 10 minutes. I'm going to close this. I don't want to keep everybody waiting. Ahmed is saying, if you use 36 months average price to calculate market cap, how do you handle the new listed companies? Yes, it's very simple. 36 months average market capitalization is used for companies having a 36 months average market capitalization. If a company has only 2 years of history, it takes 2 years into account. If it has 1 year history, it takes 1 year into account. If it has a 2-day history, it takes 2 days into account. Today it takes 2 days into account. Tomorrow it will take 3 days into account. Day after tomorrow it will take 4 days into account. That's the only way of doing it. Someone says, can you please allow checking specific shares compliance status without buying a subscription? Unfortunately, no. As I said, we have costs to pay, and anything which is researched has a value, whether people appreciate it or not, but it has a value. Are we still not recovering enough amount of money to keep the operations running? Alhamdulillah, we've got decent amount of people who are backing us and who have the confidence that inshallah the Islamic investment community will take off, and we can then bring down the subscription prices as well. If you have a concern with our subscription prices, do get in touch with our customer support. It's very simple. Just click on the WhatsApp button over there on the app itself and you'll get connected. And they will do their best to ensure that you get a reasonable amount of discount if you're looking for that. But already we keep running these discounts today as well. Whenever you go to the subscription page of the app, click on the available offers or apply offers and you'll get the offer if it is available. I think today we are running an offer. So please have a look at that. Brother Nadir is asking, how long back do you check financial history of a company? Also, is there a way to see when you have last reviewed the financial report of a company? It is very simple. As I said, as part of our daily process, we query the data service provider for latest financial information available of all the 37,000 stocks that we cover. So that's one. Two, in the next update that we are going to get on the app, you will also find when was the last update of the stock, which will essentially for Monday to Friday will be less than 24 hours back, and for Monday it will be less than 2 days back. Simple as that. So rest be assured that the screening which is available on our app incorporates the latest financial statement of the company if it is publicly available. Someone is asking, is there any consideration of ethical screening of a company? For example, this company is, I'm skipping the names, okay, is known to use, okay. Someone is asking a question essentially that does the Sharia screening criteria consider ethical aspects of that company? Very, very simple. This has been discussed at the Sharia board level. Under that company that you have mentioned, if you read in the stock discussions, we have answered this as well. From a Sharia board's level, the Sharia board cannot base its decisions or draw up a criteria which involves subjective political issues. What I mean to say is compliance assessment has to be done on an objective basis. Subjective analysis cannot take us a long way. In the nascent stage that Islamic finance is, in the nascent stage in which Sharia equity investment industry is, at this point in time, if we are adding up subjective political considerations to the criteria, we will not land up anywhere. Hence, these subjective political ethical considerations are not currently part of the guidelines. Although the Sharia board is cognizant of these things, the Sharia board condemns these things very, very strongly. The Sharia board says it is up to the individual investor to stay away from such stocks which are classified as Sharia compliant, but may not pass or may be involved in certain unethical issues, may be involved in certain political matters, which may be contrary or not very conducive to Muslims. And it is in their opinion, that is the investor's opinion, if they think that this is something which should be avoided or this company should not be supported, stay away from investing in those companies. As simple as that. That's what the Sharia board says. So at the criteria level, we cannot make that changes. At the Sharia board level, we cannot have that changes as of now, but the board is cognizant of this fact. The board condemns these things. At the same time, the board urges the actual investor to exercise caution before investing in these companies. Adil says, do you cover ASX stock market in an active manner? Yes, we cover ASX on an active manner. This at par with covering NASDAQ or NYSE or BSE or any other stocks in any other stock markets in the world. Muhammad Ashraf Sheikh says, if I gain due to capital appreciation, if you have a gain due to capital appreciation or from a Sharia compliant stock, there is no purification required. You can retain it completely. Someone says, how often are smaller companies like those listed on OTCs evaluated? Is it possible to review them more frequently since their finances change frequently? I mean, what can be more frequent than daily change? We review it on a daily basis. As soon as we get hold of the financials from the data service provider, we review it. So our review happens every single day. Someone is asking, is Zomedica updated? When I bought, it was halal to invest and it has changed. It has changed. That means it has the updated financials. It has the updated market capitalization. As simple as that. So yes, the answer is, I remember this because we just looked into it a couple of days back from a quality monitoring perspective as well. And yes, we found that this company, Zomedica, is reviewed every day, and the numbers and everything is up to date on that stock. Jeff is asking, can we talk on any recommended stock investment of long-term growth? As we've said, we want to keep the Sharia compliance research part independent of investment advice or financial advice. We're not a registered financial advisor, and for us to keep our research independent of investment gains, we do not want to get into that side as of now. Muhammad Ashraf Sheikh says, Assalamu alaikum, wa alaikum salam. If I gain on capital appreciation, purging required in this case? If you have capital appreciation, no purging is required on a Sharia compliant stock. Is it permissible to invest in a company from an oppressive country? The answer is yes, because of two reasons. Our Sharia board says that if you stay away from investing in these companies, how will you get, inshallah, someday a say in that company? If you don't become a shareholder, how will you get a say in that company? So investing from a criteria perspective is permissible in companies which are situated in oppressive countries. Secondly, even in the EOFI standard, it says that if you are investing in a non-compliant company with the intention of converting it into a Sharia compliant entity, that investment is permissible. So this principle is the same, that you are investing with an objective. So here you can, if you have that objective, it is permissible as well. Yes, the recording is always available. The recording is available on our YouTube channel called Islamicly.com. Islamicly. Just go ahead and search Islamicly on YouTube and you will get all the videos that we have. We have created playlists as well now. Shakir says, can you please explain the settlement time? Why banks take 2 days for settlement, and if one is allowed to trade in this time accordingly to Islam? Yes, you're allowed to trade before the settlement happens if you fulfill the conditions of being the owner of that stock. The risks and reward of the stock should transfer onto your name. Why do banks take or brokers take 2 days time? It's the regulation and we can't do anything about it. But that regulation doesn't change the Sharia compliance of trading in that stock. Someone says, I've been directed by your customer service to look at details of a stock on the web version. Is that referring to the desktop version? Yes, that is referring to the desktop version. In that case, it looks like I have to upgrade my subscription to access that. Yes, the desktop version comes at a premium. Secondly, the information that is not available on the app is the historical compliance of that stock. Hence, if you're looking at the historical compliance of the stock, then you will have to access the web version. If you already have the app, you get a discounted price to the web version access automatically on the app itself. Brother Maruf is asking about the table comparison between Islamicly and AOFI. I don't. It's available in many of my webinars, but if you want it in the form of an article, let me put an article over there as well. Islamicly criteria versus AOFI criteria. Let's publish an article as well. I'm just writing it down. There you go. Would you be able to classify ETF as Sharia compliant or not? Very simple. If an ETF is having a certificate of compliance as to its Sharia, it's permissible to invest. If it does not have it, you cannot invest in it. It is impossible to purify the gains from that. How do you purify dividends? Very, very simple. On the app, under every stock, there is a purify dividend button. You just have to input the date that you receive the dividend, and that is just for your record, nothing else. And input the dividends that you receive. Let's say you got $100 as dividend. If you input that, it will instantly show that $4, $3, or $1 has to be purified. Take that money and send it to any charity that you want. Avoid Muslim institutions, because this money is not halal money that you're donating. It's haram. It's impure money at best. I wouldn't say haram. I would just say impure money, which has to be donated. Impure monies cannot be donated to mosques or madrasas. It has to be donated for any other charitable purpose that you would like to invest in, that you would like to be part of. Simple as that. Abu Hamza says, how are ETF viewed in terms of compliance? What if a few companies in ETF are non-compliant? Is the compliance of 5% impermissible and considered in this case? ETFs will be the same as any other stock. But since there are a basket of stocks, as I said earlier also, it's impossible to invest. It's impossible to purify a conventional ETF. If you have invested in a conventional ETF, that means an ETF which does not have a Sharia compliance certificate, it is impossible to purify it. Simple as that. Muhammad Ashraf Sheikh says, can we invest in IPO? Is there any holding period for IPO? Answer is yes, you can invest in an IPO which is classified as Sharia compliant. There is no minimum holding period that you need to hold your stocks, even for an IPO stock. What if SPAC managers park the cash in bank to earn interest? That is considered in the cash ratio, and that interest is put as part of dividend purification as well. So it is accounted for. It's not let go of. Brother Samir is asking, at what stage do you get compliance for stocks? CCIV, for example, wasn't available earlier, but is now showing as compliant. Yes, CCIV, since it's a SPAC, we haven't covered it actively, so it's not part of the mid caps and the large caps. We have 100%, almost 100% coverage of mid caps and large caps. Small caps, OTCs, penny stocks, and SPACs have to be covered on an ongoing basis. Every day, you're getting a notification that hundreds of stocks are getting added to your markets, and this is the same part of it. So if CCIV, you were looking at it previously before it got covered by us, you could have put a screening request, and as we promise, 99% we come back within 24 hours. Wahid says, but still your fee is too expensive. We honor your feedback. If you're looking at 10, 15, 20 stocks, go ahead and subscribe per stock. It's as low as 50 pence or 50 cents for individual stock. So we allow you the flexibility of starting low as well. So what's a preference share of a SPAC? If a SPAC is issuing a preference share to its promoter or somebody else, trading of a preference share is not compliant because it guarantees you a specific return. It has a preference at the time of liquidation. So it gets a superior right over the common shares. Hence, it is considered non-permissible. AOFI also talks about the same thing. So whether a preference share of a SPAC or of any other company, preference share is not Sharia compliant by virtue of its contract itself. Muhammad Sinan says, Assalamu alaikum. Is there a class provided by Islamicly team for studying halal stocks and stock market? It's a feedback which is coming in. We're hearing this out, and inshallah, if we have bandwidth, we will do something about it. Someone is asking, can we provide 401k savings? Do you provide IRA service? Unfortunately, we can't do a lot more than what we are trying to do right now. So apologies, we don't do that. Samir is saying, and how frequently are tickers scanned for compliance? Daily, weekly, monthly? Yes, they are scanned daily. Fadi, I've answered your question. Are Bitcoin and Dogecoin trading and ownership compliant? We're not answering this question over here because it's not related to equities. That's one. Two, inshallah, very soon, our committee is discussing this in detail. And once we have a clarity on it, we'll probably send out an article on this as well. Brother Muhammad says that, can we filter through technical analysis like moving averages? As we say, Islamicly App is focused on providing the most well-researched, clear compliance information. Other things definitely are already available on your broker app, but since people want everything to be on one place, inshallah, as we finish the roadmap on providing you the appropriate tools for assessing Sharia compliance, the required filters, and improving the app performance and removing the bugs and improvising on the user experience, we will as well venture into all of these areas that you're requesting for. Inshallah, one day. Brother Iskandar is saying, is it possible to show how could we get the PDF reports in the Islamicly IPO section? There is no such thing over here. In the IPOs, we're not providing any other information apart from it being compliant and non-compliant. Every other information is available on the in the prospectus of the company or in your market screeners that you use. Since Islamicly is focused on giving Sharia compliance information, we're just giving that. Yes, we do write a few information so that you know what this talk is all about. It's just very simple data. But the main thing that we are providing, where we are experts at and where the value of the app is in providing real-time, credible, well-researched, Sharia scholars-backed compliance information. That's what our USP is. Someone is asking, do you provide screening for OTCs? We cover tons of OTCs in the US market especially. If any of the OTC is not covered already, just put up a screening request and inshallah within 24 hours, we'll come back to you. And you get a notification as well when the OTC or the stock that you requested has been screened. Interest-oriented companies are not permissible to invest according to Islamic rules, right? Even if it is in a small percentage. I'm not sure what you mean by interest-oriented companies. If a company is into financial services and its principal activity or operating activity or for which the management is actively putting their hard work in, leads to interest-based revenue, like for example, in terms of loans, banking, financial services, lending, penalties, and such businesses, then if the revenue from that is more than 5% of the total revenue of the company, then that company is considered to be non-permissible. But if you're referring to companies which raise money and which are interest-bearing debts, is investment in such companies restricted? Yes, it is restricted if the company's interest-bearing debt exceeds the market capitalization by 33%, or if the cash of the company, whether interest or non-interest, exceeds the market cap by 33%, or if the accounts receivables ratio of the company to its market capitalization exceeds 49%. So the EOFI standard also talks about that investment in companies which are involved in some way or the other in a non-operating manner of interest-based activities such as raising debt or depositing their cash and earning interest, investment in these such companies are permissible subject to the limits that I spoke about, the thresholds. Samir is asking, are cannabis stocks Sharia compliant? Samir, please go and have a look at the research report that we published yesterday. So yes, certain cannabis stocks are Sharia compliant, certain stocks are not. The thumb rule over here is that if a stock involved in the cannabis industry is exclusively manufacturing products for medical use, then that company is considered Sharia compliant. But if you're using it for lifestyle purposes or general cannabis usage, then that company is considered non-permissible. you can see a list of Sharia compliant stocks involved in the cannabis industry on the app itself. If you go to the article section of the app, you can see this report, or else you can come to the blog of the company and have a look at the article that we published yesterday. It's called Are Cannabis Companies Sharia Compliant or something like that. Ahmed says he joined late and he wants to know whether investing in SPACs is Sharia compliant. If it is a SPAC and it has been classified as Sharia compliant by Islamicly, then you're allowed to invest in it. There should not be, inshallah, any problem. But we are constantly reviewing or working on it. If there is any change in that from our Sharia board, we will come back to you. As of now, yes, investing in SPACs is fine. You can invest in it if it is classified as Sharia compliant on the Islamicly app. Ahmed again says, is day trading permissible? Yes, day trading is permissible, subject to 3 conditions. 1, it should be Sharia compliant stock. 2, you should complete the risk and reward associated with that stock. That means you should have bought that stock first and then you sell it. So buy first, sell later, and your buy transaction should be complete. Thirdly, the contract that you use for day trading should not restrict, again I repeat, should not restrict delivery. But taking delivery or possession is not mandate. What I mean to say over here is, if you are trading using your broker contract for intraday and your positions are getting auto squared off at the end of the day, that makes that day trading transaction non-compliant. But if your broker allows you to convert your day trading transactions into an overnight delivery positions, but you yourself are squaring it off by the end of the day, no problem, it is Sharia compliant. So what I mean to say is, by virtue of the contract, delivery should be possible. It is not necessary to take delivery. If that is fulfilled, then day trading is permissible if you buy first and sell later and you're buying Sharia compliant stocks. Adil is asking, what is the benefit of desktop version over the app version? Principally, it's just a technology tool. Point 1, that a lot of people, since they might be trading using a desktop, they will not be able to switch between a desktop and an app. So hence we created a desktop version. That's 1. 2, sorry about that. I had a power issue. Nonetheless, we reached the end of the webinar itself. And I think I have answered most of the questions. If we have missed out on some question, inshallah, we will be happy to answer those questions using our customer support section. And thank you everybody for joining in. It has been a phenomenal session today with so many people joining in. Alhamdulillah, it has been, I hope it has been useful for you. I hope the Islamicly app is useful for you. Please feel free to ask us any questions that you want. Let's be assured that whatever answers we give are backed by Sharia scholars are backed by the experience that we have. Islamicly App is the most well-researched, widely accepted app in the industry. You need to also understand that screening is not only a function of the financial ratios and an algorithm, it is actually the sector research that goes into it, and that's where the magic lies. We've had hundreds of meetings with the Sharia board till date, and the questions that we ask them is not about how to do the financial ratios. That's something which we figured out 15 years back. Unfortunately, the market compares us to apps which are just conducting an analysis of the financial numbers. The key thing is analyzing the sector of the company, the revenue streams of the company, and using that, giving a purification. And remember, this question nobody has asked us, okay? But it's a very, very important question, that investing or keeping your portfolio in compliance to Sharia, one of the key principles is purifying the dividends that you get. It is very essential that you follow an app or you follow a screening provider who gives out purification number as well. Before I finish, there's a repeated question that somebody is asking, and Brother Rahim has answered that for us. Yes, investing in Israeli companies is considered Sharia compliant from a criteria perspective, right? Even EOFI allows this, even our Sharia board allows this, and I have gone through the reasoning of that as well during this session. Inshallah, we hope to see you on the app. If you have not subscribed, please do subscribe, and rest be assured, for the guys who have subscribed, who are facing difficulties or having certain bugs, we are constantly working on it. And as I said, we're expanding the breadth of the team as well. And inshallah, in a couple of weeks or couple of months, as we are able to finish things off, we will be able to come up with a really world-class product. As of now, I'm very confident about our research content on it. The technology platform will definitely get better as well. So don't get bogged down by the by certain issues that you might face on the app. We are cognizant to it. The customer support is recording that minutely, and we are working on it very methodically. And inshallah, in terms of research, we will not let you complain and will not let you down. We are constantly working on the research side of things, and we will give you a proper answer about everything, and will remove all the hurdles that you have. Thank you for your time. Thank you for the love that you people have given us. We have people like Brother Rahim, Brother Iskandar. I'm naming them because they constantly are here to hear us out. They might be facing some challenges, but they are supporting us. They are propagating the word. And I recommend everyone that please do propagate the word. We are not massively funded that we can spend tons of money on marketing. It is you, by providing you the best quality of service and the most well-researched data, that we will grow. We want everyone to put it out in their stock discussion groups, in their stock investment groups, this thing. And if you want to partner with us in terms of propagating and you want some special tools, special offers, our research team, you get in touch with the customer support team and they will direct you to the marketing team. And inshallah, we can work things out as well. We have so many people who are supporting us in terms of marketing this app as well. And we are also helping them in turn by providing them the tools, giving exclusive sessions like these for their WhatsApp groups, for their probably training groups. We are here to be transparent. We are here to give you all the advice. We are here to help you in terms of growing this industry. And it is up to us and you to grow this industry. Still, there are so many brothers in the world who are keen on investing, but they are not investing in halal stocks. Not because they don't care. They do care, but they have not heard of tools like us. They have not heard of institutions like us. We have created this app for you, not for us. We were very happy doing the institutional business that we are doing, but this app has been created for you. So 2 requests is what I have. One, I should have said this earlier when we had a lot of crowd is already gone back, but the guys who are staying back are the most serious ones. One is, can you all put a review on the Play Stores? We really need some reviews over there. So if you like what we are doing, please go us and review on the App Stores. We really need reviews. It is, if you like something, put it. If you don't like something, tell the customer support. That's what we say, because just putting it out on the internet is not going to help. You tell the customer support so that we rectify our issues and it gets benefited to everybody. And if you like what you see, then please review us on the apps. We really are humbled to have you with us. It is overwhelming for us at times, but we are constantly pushing ourselves. Inshallah, we and you can take the Islamic equity investment industry to new levels. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'll see you soon, inshallah. Wa alaikum assalam to all.